Hi students, welcome back. In the last session we were discussing up to the stomach. Isn't it? Pharynx, esophagus and stomach. We were discussing the J-shaped stomach. And let's discuss now the today's topics are small intestine and large intestine. Clear? How the small intestine is formed? Let's discuss now. The small intestine, the stomach extends back. I told you that the stomach consists of three parts: cardiac, fundic and pyloric stomach. A very narrow part of the stomach is called as here the pyloric stomach. Here pylorus. The pyloric stomach extends back into the small intestine. Here entire structure is a small intestine here. So the small intestine consists of three major parts: duodenum, jejunum and ileum. The three parts DJI. That's a code to remember: duodenum followed by jejunum followed by ileum. Here the pyloric stomach. Here pyloric stomach I'm writing here extends into the duodenum. Between the pyloric stomach and duodenum, there is a sphincter muscle present called as pyloric sphincter. Pyloric sphincter. What's the sphincter? I told you the sphincter is nothing but a muscle which regulates the flow only in the forward direction but not in the backward direction. Isn't it? So the pyloric stomach extends back into the duodenum and operated by the pyloric sphincter. That is, the partially digested food from the stomach enters the duodenum, and once the partially digested food is present in the duodenum, it is not going back into the stomach because of the sphincter muscle called as the pyloric sphincter. So when is a partially digested food present now? It is present in the first part of the small intestine called as the duodenum. Let's discuss now how is a duodenum. Clear? So duodenum is a U-shaped structure like this. Here is a U-shaped structure. This is a duodenum. So here, from here to here, duodenum is present here. It's a very small part, but very important point from the digestion point of view. It is just 0.3 meters. That is almost 300 centimeters. Total small intestine is 3 meters, roughly 3 meters, out of which duodenum is just 0.3 meters, almost 300 centimeters, but very important from digestion point of view. Clear? So it consists of two limbs, one and two limbs are there, a U-shaped structure here. Okay, and between these two limbs here is a pancreas present here. This is a pancreas. See here, this is a pancreas. I drawn here green structure. This is a actually it's a greenish structure. Okay, students. So the duodenum receives the pancreatic duct, and here the liver is present, and from the liver it receives the common bile duct. So common bile duct from the liver, and the pancreatic duct from the pancreas. Both of them join. Here this is the common bile duct, this is the pancreatic duct. Both of them join to form a single duct. And here there is an extension. Here this is called as the hepatopancreatic ampulla. Also called as the ampullae of Vater. Ampullae of Vater. See here, the common bile duct from the liver and the pancreatic duct from the pancreas, both of them open into the duodenum here. This one, here, from this one, common bile duct comes, and from here, the pancreatic duct arises, both of them join to form a single duct called as a hepatopancreatic duct. Hepatopancreatic duct or hepatopancreatic ampulla or ampullae of Vater. This ampulla of Vater is guarded by a sphincter muscle called as sphincter of Odine. Sphincter of Odine. It's a sphincter which regulates the flow of the bile juice and pancreatic juice into the duodenum. That is a sphincter muscle called as sphincter of Odine. And the duodenum also contains the intestinal glands which releases the intestinal juice called as succus entericus. So the duodenum receives the three juices: the bile juice from the liver, the pancreatic juice from the pancreas, and the intestinal juice, of course, from the intestinal glands. So it's a cocktail of three juices. So we can say that duodenum is a main structure of digestion. Most part of the human digestion is accomplished in the duodenum because of this reason, even though it's a very smaller part from size point of view. Clear? So the duodenum is now continued behind as jejunum. The duodenum is continued behind as jejunum. Jejunum, and which is continued behind as ileum. See here, this is the jejunum. So duodenum continued behind as jejunum. This green structure which I have drawn here, that is the jejunum. This structure, highly coiled structure, which is almost 1 meter. This is 300 centimeters or 0.3 meters. This is 1 meter. A long coiled structure is the jejunum, and followed by jejunum is followed by ileum. See here, this is the ileum here. Immediately followed by ileum. Clear, students? So ileum is almost 2 meters in length. So which is the highly coiled structure of small intestine? Ileum is a highly coiled structure, very highly coiled structure, loophole here like this, and it is almost 2 meters here. It's the longest part, lengthy part of the small intestine is the ileum, which is almost 2 meters. Clear, students? Now, entire small intestine, the mucosa and submucosa, I'll be discussing in the next lecture, video lecture, what is mucosa, submucosa, the wall of the alimentary canal, that is histology of the wall of the alimentary canal. In the next section, I will be discussing. Just remember that the mucosa and submucosa of small intestine consist of the circular folds. Circular folds. These circular folds are called as plicae circularis. Plicae circularis. So circular folds are formed by the mucosa and submucosa. They are the wall of this small intestine here. Okay, outermost layer is the serosa, below the serosa is the muscularis externa, below which is the submucosa, and innermost layer is the mucosa. In this one, mucosa and submucosa of the small intestine has circular folds, very larger folds are there, and these circular folds are also called as the plicae circularis, which enhances the area of absorption in the small intestine. The area of absorption of the digested food is accomplished because of the circular folds called as plicae circularis, which are present in the small intestine. The small intestine, this is the first point. The second point is the small intestine mucosa. The small intestine mucosa is thrown into the finger-shaped structures called as the villi. Villi. These are will be discussed in the next lecture, and the histology of the wall of the alimentary canal, how the villi are formed. Just remember that the mucosa of the small intestine also forms into the tissues here, microscopic structure called as villi and microvilli. Okay, microvilli and villi and the circular folds called as plicae circularis, which enhances the area of absorption of the digested food. Absorption. Just now I told you that small intestine, chiefly duodenum, is the main organ of digestion in the human body. That is, small intestine is the main organ of digestion. Small intestine is also the main organ of absorption. Okay, it also releases the intestinal juice called as succus indicus. That is, it's also one of the main organ of secretion also. So what are the functions of small intestine, bacho? One is the digestion, absorption and secretion. Three functions are assigned to the small intestine, bacho. Clear, students? And the mucosa of the small intestine. Next point. Mucosa of the small intestine consists of the mud, mucosal associated lymphoid tissue. The secondary lymphoid organ called as mucosal associated lymphoid tissue is present in the mucosa of the small intestine. Mucosa of small intestine. Okay, it is nothing but secondary lymphoid organ associated with the lymphatic system. Okay, students, mucosal associated lymphoid tissue present in the mucosa of small intestine and the mucosa of the ileum, that is marked of the ileum, is called as Peyer's patches. Peyer's patches. These are nodule-like structures, small nodule-like structures called as Peyer's patches. It forms a secondary lymphoid organ present in the ileum. It is associated with the lymphatic system. Clear, students? This is about the small intestine. Next one, let's discuss the large intestine. Small intestine, I told you that it is roughly 3 meters long, whereas large intestine is just 1.5 meters long. And the diameter, for example, this is a diameter, isn't it? This is a diameter, thickness, for example. This is just 2.5 centimeters, not meters here, don't say meters here, okay? So 2.5 centimeters, and this is as long as 6.5 centimeters. So, from length point of view, this is more because it's just a half of the small intestine length. And this is here many times more, the thickness is more here. The thickness is very much, that's why the large intestine is called as large intestine because of the thickness, but not the length, here. This is a measurement of the large intestine, and the small intestine is followed by the large intestine here. Okay, students. The large intestine is followed by, again here, 3 major structures. Here, large intestine. Large intestine consists of cecum, followed by colon, and followed by rectum. These are the major parts of large intestine. Some of the sources also include the anal canal under the large intestine. Anal canal under the large intestine. So first part of large intestine is the cecum. Let's discuss about the cecum here. So I told you that duodenum, jejunum and ileum constitutes the small intestine. The jejunum, for example, this is the jejunum. Jejunum is followed by which one? Cecum. This is the cecum, for example. This is the cecum. That is, this is the ileum of the small intestine and cecum of the large intestine. Between the ileum and the cecum, there is a sphincter muscle present called as ileocecal. Ileocecal valve. Ileocecal valve is there, which regulates the undigested food, because in the small intestine the food is completely digested, almost completely digested, and 90% of absorption of the digested food is accomplished in the small intestine. Still some unabsorbed food and undigested food is present in the small intestine. So this process called as undigested and unabsorbed food from the small intestine slowly is coming to which one? From the ileum to the cecum. See, ileum is a posterior portion of the small intestine and anterior portion of the large intestine is the cecum. So the undigested, unabsorbed food from the ileum is coming back behind into the cecum, and that is guarded, regulated by a valve called as ileocecal valve. That is, once the undigested food is present in the cecum or large intestine, it is not going back into the small intestine because of the presence of this valve called as ileocecal valve. Ileocecal valve here. Okay, students. So where is the undigested, unabsorbed food now? It is present in the cecum. Let's discuss about this one. Cecum. So the undigested food is present. This is the cecum, but all of you see here. This is the cecum. A very small part, the cecum. The cecum is containing the very small structure and appendix here, called as is an extension, an appendage called as vermiform appendix. Vermiform appendix. This is the cecum, the first part of large intestine. And this cecum contains an extension, an appendage called as vermiform appendix. Vermiform means worm-like. Vermiform means worm-like. Appendix means an appendage. and extension. So worm-like and appendage is called as vermiform appendage. It is a vestigial organ. Vestigial organ. That is organ which is functional in the remote ancestors, but now it is not functional, dysfunctional. That's called as a vestigial organ. There is no function assigned to the vermiform appendix. Clear, students? Now sometimes what happens, because of the presence of large number of worms, or there is some other trauma or any other injury or some other problem, medical problem, vermiform appendix may get some inflammation. That is, where is what swelling, redness, pain and burning sensation is there. That is called as inflammation here. The inflammation of this vermiform appendix is called as appendicitis. Appendicitis. There is an intense abdominal pain is there towards the right side of the abdomen, and low to high temperature, nausea, vomiting sensation, indigestion and host of some other problems out there. Some of the, if it is untreated, what happens, the vermiform appendix, because it is having the bacteria, this vermiform appendix is burst. If it is untreated, then the bacteria are going to the total gastrointestinal tract. In severe cases, the person may die. That is, appendicitis, if it is untreated, it leads to the death of the person also. So what is the cure of this one? The cure is called as appendicectomy operation. There is a laparoscopic operation, appendicectomy here. That is the ultimate solution for this problem here. Now let's get back to the cecum now. The cecum, the first part of the large intestine, consists of a host of symbiotic bacteria. Very important point. Cecum consists of symbiotic bacteria. What is symbiosis? Symbiosis means win-win. That is, bacteria is receiving the shelter, food and protection from the human being, and human being is also receiving the benefit from this bacteria. A mutualism, win-win approach. Isn't it? That's why symbiosis association is present in the cecum here because of this bacteria here. So bacteria produces various vitamins and other nutrients for the benefit of human beings. In this way, humans are benefited because of the presence of bacteria in the cecum. So there is a mutualism, symbiosis is present here. That's the first function of cecum, vitamin production and other nutrient production because of symbiotic bacteria. The first function of cecum, and the second function is in the cecum, the absorption of water, electrolytes, and certain drugs, etc. There is an absorption because when the undigested food, unabsorbed food is passing to the first part of the cecum, water is absorbed, reabsorbed, and certain electrolytes and drugs which are essential for the human body are also absorbed and reabsorbed in the cecum. That's the second function. And the third function is mucus is also secreted. You may understand why mucus is secreted here, because the undigested food has to be repassed to the next part. For this removal in the form of fecal matter, isn't it? For this one, what is required? Mucus is required for the smooth passage here. That's why it also releases some amount of mucus for the easy passage of this undigested food. Then it forms in the fecal matter. Clear? So three functions are assigned to the cecum. Next one is cecum is followed by colon here. Let's discuss about the colon. Colon is a very highly coiled structure here. Can you see all of you? This is a colon, cecum. This is a cecum. Cecum is followed by colon. From here almost it is starting the colon here. Very wider structure like this up to here. From here almost up to here, entire structure is a colon. And the colon consists of four major parts. Colon contains four major parts here. Ascending colon, transverse colon, and descending colon here like this. So this is the ascending colon, this is the transverse colon, and this is the descending colon. See here, this is the ascending colon, transverse colon, and descending colon here. So three major parts. It also is associated with some sigmoid structure called as a sigmoid colon. Sigmoid colon here. So four major parts are present in the colon: ascending, transverse, descending, and sigmoid colon here. Okay, this colon is containing the smooth muscles. Entire wall of the alimentary canal, right from esophagus up to the rectum, it consists of smooth muscles or involuntary muscles only, isn't it? So here also the smooth muscles, involuntary muscles are present. The involuntary muscles, smooth muscles, are of two different types. One is the longitudinal muscles, and circular muscles. The smooth muscles are of two different types, longitudinal and circular muscles. In this one, the longitudinal muscles are modified here as tinea coli. See here the tinea coli present here. See here, this is the ascending, transverse, descending, and sigmoid colon here. So this consists of here the smooth muscles here called as the longitudinal muscles. The longitudinal muscles here are called as the tinea coli here. This is the tinea coli, for example. One band, second band, and third band here like this. Three muscles here. They are nothing but longitudinal smooth muscles called as the tinea coli. Tinea coli here. A coiled-like structures, a tape-like structures. That's why tinea coli here. Three bands here. So because what's the function of these muscles? Always the muscles have the contraction and the relaxation, isn't it? So here, what is formed? Some of the undigested food is here formed here in the small intestine, which is coming to the cecum. Cecum, some amount of reabsorption occurs. Still a large amount of food need to be absorbed and reabsorbed, isn't it? And remaining food is removed here, formed in the form of fecal matter. So this fecal and undigested food has to be passed to the various parts of the colon. For this one, what is necessary? What is necessary here? For the muscle contraction is necessary. Only with the muscle contraction, the undigested food can be passed to the various parts of the colon. Okay, that's the function of this tinea coli. Three longitudinal smooth muscle bands are present here. They contract and relax. Because of this contraction and relaxation of this tinea coli only, the undigested food is passed to the various parts of the colon here. And because of this very sustained contractions, this tinea coli, the wall of the colon is bulged here like this. See here, the wall of the colon is bulged here like this. There is out pouches out there. These out pouches are called as a haustra. See here, these are the haustra. These bulged out pouches are called as a haustra. Out pockets are present here. These bulged out pouches, the wavy structures, because of the smooth muscle contraction, are called as a haustra. And these contractions hence are called as a haustral contractions. Haustral contractions. They are nothing but a type of peristalsis happened here. Peristalsis here, in the form of haustral contractions, because of which the undigested food is passed to the various parts of the colon. Isn't it? So where is this passed here now? Sigmoid colon. Isn't it? Sigmoid colon. And sigmoid colon is continued behind as which one? This is a rectum here. Then now let's get back to the rectum now. So here is a small structure, is dilated sac-like structure called as rectum. Very small structure which is continued from the sigmoid colon is called as rectum. The last part of the large intestine is a rectum here. And rectum is a dilated sac-like structure. What is a sac? A bag-like structure. Dilated. What is dilated here? An expanded structure. And the expanded structure is called as dilated sac-like structure called as a rectum. It is a very shorter structure here. This is the red color which is drawn here, that is called as the rectum here. Okay, in the rectum, by this time the fecal matter is formed. Because the water, essential electrolytes and drugs and other stuff are already absorbed and reabsorbed in the various parts of the cecum and also here colon. By this time, by the time it is passed, the undigested food is passed to the rectum, it is formed into the fecal matter. So what's the function of rectum now? The rectum stores the fecal matter if necessary for the temporary time. For this one, what is necessary here? Large amounts of mucus has to be formed here, and here the large amounts of mucus is formed here because the fecal matter should be released out here. And after, behind the rectum, what is present? I told you, the anal canal. Rectum is followed by anal canal here. So a smaller anal canal is formed here. This is called as anal canal. Rectum is continued behind as anal canal, and the fecal matter is going out to the anus. The posterior opening of the alimentary canal is called as the anus. The anterior opening, of course, is the mouth, and the posterior opening is called as the anus. So the fecal matter has to be discharged through the anus, and that's called as ejection or defecation properly here. Defecation, the process of release of the fecal matter is called as the defecation, and that's happening to the anus. And anus is having the internal sphincter and the external sphincter. Anus is having the internal and external sphincter. Anus, the posterior opening of the alimentary canal, gastrointestinal tract, contains the internal anal sphincter and guarded by the smooth muscles or involuntary muscles, and external anal sphincter guarded by the voluntary or striated muscles. Okay, that's why defecation is a voluntary process. How the defecation occurs in the next future sessions I'll be discussing, not here. So hope you enjoyed my session. Watch all of you. All of you type in the comment box below. Okay, students. Bye, students, all of you.